All right, let's dive in. Today we're talking about the recent Reddit outage that seemed to take over the internet for a while there, Wednesday afternoon, when the memes stopped and everyone was like, wait, is it just me or is Reddit down?
Yeah, what's really interesting to me is how this went way beyond just like people being annoyed. Did you see how many businesses were affected? I think about the ones who use Reddit for like advertising and building community. It really shows how reliant we are on these platforms.
Yeah, it's scary when you think about it. Okay, so let's start with a timeline here. The outage hit around 3 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, November 20th, if I'm not mistaken. And Reddit, they made a statement, officially acknowledged it just before 4 p.m.
And this wasn't like a small glitch. We're talking almost 50,000 user complaints on Down Detector. It hit major cities in the US pretty hard. Reddit themselves said their website, their mobile app, even their internal systems, all down.
Wait, even their own employees couldn't get on. That must have been, wow, just a completely crazy day for them. What actually went wrong, technically speaking?
Reddit said it was a bug. Something in a recent update caused the whole thing. But digging a little deeper, it's not just about not being able to browse, right? They confirmed problems with comments, with their spam filters, even with their content delivery network, which is
Okay, hold on. Content delivery network. Can we break that down a bit? For those of us who don't speak code, what does that even do for Reddit?
so imagine it like this. The CDN, or Content Delivery Network, it's like a global network of servers. They're like little local libraries for all the data on the website. So when you go on Reddit, you're probably connecting to a server that's closer to you geographically, not all the way to Reddit's HQ.
So it's all about faster loading times, less strain on their central systems, is that it?
Exactly. But when the CDN messes up, it's like suddenly all those libraries are closed. It doesn't matter how good the main one is. Nobody can get the books if the doors are locked.
Ah, that's a great way to put it. And I imagine with a platform as huge as Reddit, even a tiny bug could set off, like a chain reaction.
Oh, absolutely.
So is Reddit buckling under its own success here? Or could there be, like, other problems we're not seeing?
That's what we're going to dig into. And it's not just about the tech side, right? We got to talk about how people reacted to all this. Social media was, well, it was quite the show.
Oh, yeah, between the is anyone else having problems
Mm-hmm.
posts and all the memes about desperately searching for some other site to hang out on.
It really makes you think about how intertwined our lives are with these online spaces.
For sure. And that can be, I don't know, both good and bad, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It shows the power of community online, but also how fragile it all can be. One bug, and millions are suddenly cut off from information, entertainment, connection. It's a lot.
So how do we like balance those two things, the need to connect
Mm-hmm.
with knowing that even giants like Reddit could just go down?
That's a question we're going to keep exploring. But first, I think we need to go deeper on the technical stuff. If we understand what might have caused this, we'll have a better idea of the bigger picture.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty then. What could a bug in an update actually do to take down a whole platform?
So we were talking about how one little bug can spiral, right? It's all about how interconnected these systems are. Like Reddit's not just one big thing. It's a bunch of pieces talking to each other constantly.
You were saying it's like a domino effect. But can we get even more specific? What kind of bug are we even talking about? What could it be doing that causes this much trouble?
It's hard to say without seeing Reddit's actual code. But let's say, hypothetically, the bug messed with how their servers talk to that CDN we discussed.
The CDN, right? The server libraries all over the world.
Exactly. Imagine there's a miscommunication, just a tiny one, in how those main servers send requests to the CDN, let's say, for loading someone's homepage, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly, instead of smooth sailing, it's
A traffic jam on the information superhighway.
perfect analogy. So those requests start piling up, putting more and more strain on everything. The CDN can't handle it. The main servers are getting slammed. And then other systems that depend on that smooth communication, they start freaking out too.
So that's what I was saying. For want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe. I can't remember the whole thing. But it's basically like one little thing leads to another, and then the whole thing falls apart.
Exactly. And that brings us to the question of, is this a pattern with Reddit? Two big outages, pretty close together, both seemingly tied to updates. Makes you wonder.
Yeah, you have to wonder if they're like growing too fast for their own good. Like maybe they're pushing out these updates too quickly to keep up with all the new users and stuff.
It's definitely a factor. They haven't said anything officially, but you got to think, the pressure's on, right? New features, keeping people engaged, those profits rolling in.
Maybe thorough testing and all that takes a backseat.
So is this a case of move fast and break things, but on a massive scale?
Could be. But To be fair, managing a platform that size is insanely complicated. Millions of users, content flowing 247, bugs are going to happen.
Sure, but 2 major outages in a month, that feels like more than just a few bugs. I agree. It does raise some concerns about their processes internally, their engineering, maybe even how the whole platform is structured.
We can't forget about the businesses that depend on Reddit, right? Imagine launching a new product or something, your big marketing push.
Yeah.
And suddenly, poof, your audience is gone because the whole site is down.
Talk about a nightmare. And not just the money wasted, but the damage to your brand. Customers can't reach you, support's down. That's not good.
It's like no matter how much we love these sites, how easy they make things, they're still vulnerable. And for businesses, that vulnerability is a real problem.
Absolutely. It's a wake-up call, for sure. Relying on just one platform, no matter how big it is, how popular, that's risky. You gotta spread out.
So what, abandon ship and go to smaller sites that hopefully won't crash as much?
Not necessarily. The reach you get on these big platforms is still huge, right? The engagement, all that, it's valuable. But it's got to be about balance, having a plan B, multiple platforms, different communities, don't put all your eggs in one basket and all that.
Diversify. Yeah. That's the lesson of the day. But let's switch gears a bit. Talk about how people reacted to this whole thing. There's got to be something we can learn from that, right?
I was really struck by how much humor and creativity came out of it. Yeah, there was frustration, of course, but also a ton of memes, jokes, people even sharing tips for finding other places to hang out online.
I saw people offering to trade sourdough starter for a working Reddit login. It's heartwarming, like a very human response to this weird digital crisis.
It really is. We adapt, we make jokes, we find a way to connect anyway. Even when the tech fails us, that instinct to come together, to share what we're going through, it's pretty powerful.
So maybe these outages, annoying as they are, they also remind us how resilient we are, like our ability to roll with the punches, figure things out.
Maybe they make us think outside the box, try new things, and when everything's back online, you appreciate it even more.
Like a forced digital detox, in a way. Unpleasant while it's happening, but maybe good for us in the long run.
And speaking of the long run, this whole thing makes you think about the future, right? Like, how do we make the internet itself more resilient?
Yeah, our lives depend on this stuff more and more every day. How do we make sure one little bug doesn't just bring it all down? And what can platforms like Reddit do to prevent this from happening again?
Now, those are the million-dollar questions. And while we don't have all the answers right now, hopefully this deep dive has given you some things to consider. Because this digital world is only getting more complex, right?
For sure. And on that note, I think we'll leave our listeners with one final thought. As we become more and more reliant on the internet, what can we do, individually and as a society, to build a more resilient digital future?
A future where one bug doesn't leave millions stranded online. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We've talked a lot about the technical stuff, the business side of this outage, but I keep thinking about how people reacted. Almost like a social experiment or something, seeing what happens when everyone's online world just disappears.
It is, yeah. You see it all on social media, don't you? Frustration, confusion, but also like humor, even a bit of, I don't know, existential panic almost.
Totally. I saw this tweet. Someone said, I haven't felt this lost since I dropped my phone in a porta potty. And I just, come on, that's perfect. And all the people rushing to Bluesky, it's like they're refugees or something.
I wonder if those smaller sites see a huge jump every time Reddit goes down. Might be good for business, actually. But it also says something more about us.
What do you mean?
Think about those reactions. It's not just, oh no, I can't see funny pictures. It's about being cut off from a community, right? A place to get information, to feel like you belong.
Yeah, it's that feeling when the power goes out. And you're like, wow, I depend on electricity for everything. Except here, it's like our social power grid or something.
Exactly. And that dependence, that feeling of being, I don't know, tethered to these platforms, it's powerful, but also unsettling, isn't it?
For sure. On the one hand, it's amazing what the internet has done connecting people like this. But then it goes down and you're like, wait, how fragile is this whole thing, really?
That's it, that fragility. And it's not just an abstract thing, right? There are consequences. We talked about businesses. But think about the individuals who depend on Reddit for support groups, health information, even just to feel less alone.
That's a good point. It's easy to make jokes, but for some people, this isn't just an inconvenience. It's a disruption to, like, essential stuff in their lives.
Exactly. And it highlights the need for, I don't know, better digital literacy or something. People need to understand how these platforms work, the risks involved, and have other ways to get info, to connect. It's only getting more important as our lives move online.
So what are we all doomed? Time to stock up on canned goods and learn Morse code.
Not quite, but it is a reminder. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have multiple ways to connect, to find information, and maybe just a little bit of healthy skepticism about the stability of it all.
So basically, enjoy the internet, but don't get too comfortable.
Exactly. Be aware, be informed, and have a backup plan.
Solid advice. I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Technical stuff, business impact, the human side of it all. Even got a little philosophical, didn't we?
We did, yeah. And hopefully we've given our listeners some things to think about their own relationship with the internet and how to navigate this crazy digital world that's always changing.
Because whether it's a bug, a server overload, who knows what, the internet's going to keep throwing us curveballs, right?
Yeah.
It's going to surprise us, challenge us, and remind us just how connected we all are, for better or for worse.
Until next time, then. Stay curious, stay connected, and maybe have that backup plan ready, just in case.
And check your internet connection.
Twice?
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.